you gave me a quote from a book one time you talked about with our group. It's like, as soon as you're able to control yourself, that is when you're able to control reality. That's by Frederick Dodson.
That's such a powerful quote. I just got chills just thinking about it, dude. It's like, look at that. Literal chills, man. You're not the same Jonathan that I met a year and some change ago.
Yeah.
You're the boss now, and you know it, right? And you're more confident in yourself. You're confident in your business. You're confident in your abilities and you as an overall person, dude. Let's actually go ahead and go into it, man. Tell us a little bit about where you started from.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in a small town in Iowa. I was actually raised on a farm, so I literally lived on a gravel road from town of 2,000 people, no stoplight, like in between corn and bean fields. So I was about as small town as you could get, and I always wanted to get into exercise. I always wanted to be the athlete of the school. I really got into football when I was in high school. I got recruited to play college football. Sadly enough, I ended up suffering a couple of knee injuries that ended my playing career in football, but I still wanted to be around sports, even though I couldn't actually keep playing sports. So that's when I decided to go for my exercise science degree and work in strength conditioning. And I did that at a small school in the state capital of Iowa. And during that time, they actually had a really good internship program. So I kind of put it on myself to try and get as much knowledge and information as possible. So that's when I interned with the University of Florida football team, the University of Iowa football team, the University of Arkansas track and field and baseball team, the Minnesota Vikings, all in a span of about 2 years at the end of my undergraduate degree. So that's when I really decided, like, oh, I really love this like exercise science, strength conditioning route. So that's kind of what I decided to pursue.
Nice. So doing an internship with the Minnesota Vikings, that's pretty big. So why not just stay there?
What I found out pretty quickly is like I tried to go multiple avenues. Like I wanted to be a Division I strength conditioning coach when I was in college, and then my biggest career dream that I've ever had since I was probably in high school was to be a general manager of an NFL franchise. I learned along the way that it was a lot of work with like not a whole lot of guarantee to it, and also just going about that hiring process. I was about 2-3 years going through the hiring process for both, and I was getting passed up for certain reasons, and like just I wasn't getting accepted with different places. And I was just getting frustrated because I'm like, I know I'm more than qualified for this.
It sounds like there was a lot of politics involved there as well. People saw that you worked hard, but you kept getting passed on for the opportunity to continue your growth.
Yep, exactly.
Was that the point where you realized that, hey, I could actually make my own career and create my own opportunities from this situation and not work for anybody else, but work for myself?
Yeah, it was kind of along those lines. Like I was, working remote, but still working the 9 to 5 hours with the 9 to 5 desk job hours with the Steelers. And I was just kind of like, man, maybe it'd be kind of nice if I can make a supplemental income. And, if it goes well, then I can go ahead and make this into like my full time and then maybe make that into the part time. So that's when I really started looking into it. I started, during that time looking at and reaching out to different people. There's a couple other people that I saw YouTube videos of and kind of talked to. And at that time, I just kind of felt, okay, this seems really shady. I think that it's going to take my money. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I just didn't trust a lot of the other people on the space. And that's when I came across your profile. I was like, this guy seems pretty cool. He seems pretty nice, pretty easy to talk to. So I watched a lot of your videos, and I have to say, like, what kind of got me on a phone call was I actually used some of your stuff in terms of working with other people and actually landing one or two clients off of the videos that you had for free on YouTube. And I was like, okay, like if his free stuff's good, like I probably should just reach out to him and see what like it actually is to possibly work with him.
See, I knew you were smart already, but to get the free material and then apply it first to see if it actually works, and it did work, and then you land a client. After you tried the concepts from the free content from my YouTube channel, what was the next challenge that you faced?
At this time, I was like, okay, I see so many people making legitimate money, like not $25, $50 off of a program, but legit, like, thousands of dollars off of selling workout programs online. I'm like, dude, I'm better than all these people. Like, I know that I can make a program. So I'm like, okay.
And smarter.
Yeah, you think with the degrees and stuff, but I was like, okay, like I know I can make this kind of money to supplement this, and possibly make this into a full-time career. So that's when I started looking into it. I'm like, okay, I'm a dang good coach, but the thing is, I'm not necessarily a good like what you always tell us is to be a CEO. Like I didn't know marketing and I didn't know sales. So I was like, okay, I need to probably reach out to someone to be able to do this, because at that point I needed to have a better understanding of my own value. Because
Yeah.
I mean, me asking 25, $50 for a program, there'd be some times where I'd get hit with an objection. They'd be like, oh, that's a lot of money. I can't take that. And I'd be like, oh, sorry, I'll go ahead and do it for 40. And I was just like, hey, like I just do that. So I was like, okay, I need to learn from someone and learn to better justify my value. So that's when I started going down the route of looking at online coaches to kind of help me become a better coach and just ultimately a CEO of a business, the idea that I had.
Yeah, it sounds like that you had some beliefs issues about yourself and charging that much and just kind of taking whatever you could just because, or negotiating with somebody just because they couldn't afford it.
Exactly. I think the big thing, like, and we've worked through a lot with this program, is understanding my own value and my own self-worth, and understanding
Yes.
the value that I bring to the table is worth that and much more than what I'm giving to the people that I serve.
Yes. And how does that make you feel actually getting paid what you're worth?
It's nice. It's good because I'm no longer allowing someone else to justify my value. I'm justifying my own value, and people are seeing the value that I provide, and they keep coming back to the table. So that's when it's just confirmation bias, and it's nice to have that confirmation bias. But at the same time, it's like I know I'm worth this, and I'm not going to allow someone to say no. Even if I got those objections, I'll be like, hey, that's okay. Like, either you're for me. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you know what? You can always come back if you want to when you're ready. But I'm not going to change what I am and my value is.
Yeah, and that alone makes you feel more confident. Well, from my perspective, it seems that alone allows you to be more confident in yourself and also in your prices and also what you offer in your side of your coaching program.
1000%. No, 1000%. And being in that area of confidence, it allows you to kind of carry that state of abundance rather than scarcity. And that's where you can really do good in terms of like stacking those wins together.
You're now financially able to have the options as well,
Yeah.
right? And you're building your dream lifestyle where you could do whatever you want to do. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel that if it makes me feel good because I took a bet on myself. Like I could have
Yeah.
done what they
Yeah.
consider the comfortable route, staying close to
Hmm.
home and, doing what everyone else is doing. But I decided to take the road less traveled because I want to stay true to myself. And, when I came out here, it was literally like I was just kind of running around with my head cut off at first. And, there's many times where I reached out for you to advice and whatnot, just because you made a similar transition around a similar time and age in your life as well, too. And that's where I related really well with you as well. And you just slowly start picking things up, and you slowly just start learning from your losses, like appreciate but continue to learn from your wins. And it just kind of all fell into place. Like there would be things that were happening that were great, there'd be things that happened that I'd be like, oh man, this sucks, and you'd be like, don't worry bro, this is going to definitely work out for you. And I'm like, sitting here in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, it did. But
It definitely worked out for you, especially with all the things I know about the challenges that you went through too, as well.
yeah, exactly.
You started your online coaching business actually in Iowa,
Yeah,
right? When you signed up.
yeah,
And then you came out here, you were still doing your online coaching business, but you were still also writing for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. I know online coaching still wasn't your full-time job. So what was the challenge there? Why didn't you just go all in with online coaching, and why did you continue to keep your part-time job?
I think a big thing was with that, I saw this sense of security. Like, oh, I knew I was going to get X amount a month from like this coaching thing with the Steelers. And like, frankly, like I knew they gave me the ability to move to California in the first place. So I was like, it
Hmm.
was a matter of betting on myself to actually make that transition and, go from full-time hours with them where I was working, 50, 60 hours a week sometimes, to actually making that full investment into just, okay, maybe work a little bit just to make sure rent's covered. And then everything else is going to be on the online coaching biz. So I think that was the one thing that I kind of need to do, is just like understand, like, the money part, it's going to happen. Like, of course, like you're going to, step back a little bit when you go from full time to part time with something. But when you go more on board with your own business, and you start seeing that you put the investment forward and you start to see the payoff from that. And then it's like you're creating your own schedule and you're no longer working for someone else. And I'm proud to say I'm making more now doing my own thing than I ever was when I was working full time for for the Steelers. So.
Yeah, so it sounds like when you were working part-time and doing the coaching business, Your your ambitions was just to afford rent and just have a little bit of extra income.
Yep. Mhm.
What happened when you started working for yourself full time? What did your ambitions change to then?
My ambitions were, I mean, I'm not very much of like a big spender, but like I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to travel and do anything well within the area, because I mean the SoCal area, there's so many different things that you can do out here, let alone if you
Yeah.
want to go travel other places. So it was like I want to have that ability where I can work and I can go ahead and take that work and then travel. I don't have to ask for time off. I don't have to ask to like be away. Like I can go ahead and work with my online clients where I need to, but I can go ahead and take a week to go back home to see my family. I can take a week to go visit friends out in Florida. I mean, up in here in December, I get to go with my brother. We're going to Tulum and we're going to work there. I'm going to work there for a
Nice.
week. So it's like, and get some good content on top of it. So it's like this
Yeah.
opportunity that, it's not like I'm going on vacation and not taking my work with me. I can, but I have it in a position now where I can take time aside and my clients will respect that, but also making sure that I can go ahead and work wherever I want to and I get to set my own schedule rather than having someone else set it for me. And I have this idea of freedom that comes from more money that I've made.
Let me ask you this. There's a lot of guys who are obsessed with football. They're obsessed with fantasy and they know every single stat of every single football player,
I know
right?
this.
But they have no clue about the numbers in their business.
Yep.
Can you talk about that? Do you know people like that?
I do. I actually do. And I love because you talk about this a lot on your stories as well too. Yeah, I think that's something that, I learned when I started up this business, started working with you, is making sure that, okay, if this is yours, like you have to make sure that you are being very serious about it. So for me, like I know what numbers I have to be hitting in terms of messages sent every single day, how many calls I should be looking to book a week, making sure I'm taking care of like my posts a week, how many times I'm posting reels, how many times am I posting stories. Like that's something that we talk about, is tracking your KPIs. Like I'm very like sensitive about that. And I see like sometimes think, okay, I've come a long way, but then I'll see other people in the group or other people in the business that are like, man, they're really dialed in. So it's like, it's good, but it can always be improved. And that's where it's important, because if you're kind of just walking around with your head cut off, you're just like, oh, I'm going to post a reel today, or, I'm going to send out 5 messages a day, 10 tomorrow. Like you're never going to like have consistent results that way. I mean, it's just not
Mm.
going to happen. So yeah, of course the leisure stuff is fun. And that's where, for me, if I want to unwind and watch a football game now, I will, but I'm not going to sit down and watch 7, 8 hours of football anymore like I used to when I was a kid. Like I want to focus on the business. That's the big thing. And you want to make sure if it's yours, you want to make sure that you're building it correctly. Like that's the big thing right there.
How has tracking your numbers transferred over to other areas of your life?
I think it's just making me more intentional with what I'm doing. Like when I track my
Mm.
numbers, like I might have it where, I have a really busy day with like getting all this other stuff done. And I'll get to the end of the day and be like, man, I was like a little short on the messages sent today. Like I noticed that. And I'll start to notice that with other aspects of my life too. Like if I'm not being intentional with following up with people same day, next day when it comes to messages and leads, like I notice that if I'm not being intentional with these conversations, I'm not going to, convert a lot of people when it comes to calls, or, in other areas of my life. Like if I'm not being intentional with, my diet, if I'm going out to eat like multiple days a week, and me and the girlfriend treat each other good, like then I'll be like, oh man, my physique's not looking as good as it normally could be. Like, or even like with the gym, if I'm just kind of going through the motions, like I might have it where I might be 2, 3 weeks into a split and be like, man, like I'm not really seeing a whole lot of progress. So I think it's just making sure that you have that intentionality behind everything. So that way you're like are actually staying on top of things. What if it's your fitness, what if it's your business, in all aspects. Like even for me, like as a man of like faith, like I make sure that I'm trying to stay intentional with my stuff I do every single day. Am I just throwing it, like mailing it in, going through the motions, or am I intentionally like learning the stuff that I'm putting in front of myself every day?
But how do you even get to that point where you're tracking the way you are? Because, somebody that could be listening to this, when you bring up the word tracking, people may have this underlying anxiety that may come up. I got to track this. I got to do that. I got to do that. But how do you even get to the point where you actually enjoy tracking? And you may not even enjoy it now, but you know that it's a part of the process. How do you get to that point?
I think it was just making sure to put it in my schedule and like actually enjoy like what I'm doing while I'm doing it. For me, like I
Mm.
walk on a treadmill at equinox, look to my right, I see the beach, the pier, the sunset, all that stuff while I'm sending messages. And I have people that are around every once in a while. Someone that I might know from the gym comes up to me, have a little bit of conversation. Just keep going, send all my messages. I don't get off the treadmill until all the messages are sent. So for me, like that's my happy place where I can kind of have like almost a state of like flow, just because I
Hmm.
am in my prime environment, having spent so much time in a weight room and in a gym, especially with the view. Like, at that point, it's
Yeah.
like, where else would I rather be? If I want to be here, like I might as well just do my job while I'm here.
Yeah. But what about the fitness coach that's in Iowa right now, that's living on a gravel road, that doesn't have the beach to his left and cool clients to his right, but he's on this rinkety treadmill trying to fall in love with the work and he has some challenges. What would you say to that person?
I would tell you, make sure that your intrinsic motivation is strong enough to know why you started, and that's going to be the thing that carries you through. Because for me, doing it for years, like I did a lot of work to get where I was at, whether it be strength conditioning, whether it be, working as a general, like doing all the scouting stuff that I've done. A lot of work, a lot of time at endless nights to get where I wanted to go. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I couldn't see the future. I just knew I was working towards something. And I knew that work
Yeah.
ethic was going to get me there. So I would just say it's like making sure you stick to the process. Like you tell a client to stick to the process, follow your macros, make sure you get your workouts in. Like if you're not going to stick to the process, there's no way you're going to see results. I mean, we've talked about this. Like you'll
Yeah.
have it where you'll be brutally honest with me and be like, Jonathan, are you doing X, Y, and Z? And I'll be like, oh, I might be, or I might not be. And you'll be like, be honest with me, dude. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely need to be better at it. So it's just like stick to the process, get the things done that need to be done. And then you're going to start to reward yourself in the future, even though you may not see it in that exact moment in time.
Yes. Yes. Stick to the process because we are fitness coaches, right? So most of the people who have are listening to this, they've gotten themselves a little bit of results in the physical form of their fitness. And they got there by doing a couple of things. They had to track their macros, they had to stick to the process with working out, they had to stick to the process with cardio, etc. And that translates over to the business as well because tracking your macros is tracking your KPIs. Those are your key performing indicators for your physique, right?
Yeah.
In business, you have key performing indicators for your business as well, right? Your content that you're posting, your calls that you're booking, the calls that you're closing, et cetera, et cetera. So, Jonathan, you've been in the coaching program for about a year now, right? And the coaching program for FitBoss, we have this guarantee to six figures within 6 months or less, or we continue to work with you until you get there until no, for free, for no additional cost, right?
Right.
So it took you about a year, maybe a year plus a month. I'm not 100% sure
Mm-hmm.
to get to that point where you're making six figures with your business. Why do you think, and this isn't a bad thing, but why do you think it took you a year?
I think the big thing was like not going all in. Like, and that's what I'll tell people. Like, I talked to a friend that was recently like trying to do the same thing. And, I was so far along with like doing stuff for the Steelers and, like making sure I was like kind of being sensitive with like investing more time, energy, resources, finances into like the business itself. I know that that was something that I was always very difficult, like, oh, like starting paid ads and, paying money, maybe not seeing the initial return on investment right away. Like
Mhm.
that's where I had to learn to like be better about investing in myself and really like truly betting on myself and really being all in on it. And like eventually here, like this spring, when I got to that point when I started to go all in, like I started to see pretty quickly, like, oh, when I actually put more of my time and effort and energy into this, like, oh man, I see a better return on investment. And, you know, less than 4 months later, that's when I started, pulling off the 6 figure months. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
it makes me wish I would have done it sooner. Like I would have gone all
Mm.
in on myself sooner because ultimately it was no harm, no foul. I didn't waste anything doing that. I ended up benefiting from it. So I think it was just because I took a little bit of time to really go all in on the business is what like kind of kept me getting there.
Yeah. And would you define all in as your money, time, and energy, or would you add or take away to that?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Like I know, like, I grew up in a place where it's just like, live within your means. If you get money, save it, don't spend it. So like the idea of like spending money on all these different like applications and all these different software and like all this stuff, like I was like, oh, why could I do that when I could find an easier way that doesn't cost any money to do it, right? But then I was like,
Mm.
man, like, am I really like progressing myself as a business professional? So I mean, I paid to go ahead and get coaching from you, so it's like the more that I invest in myself, the better that the business is going to be. And that was just something I had to learn the hard way over time. And I think so that from that perspective, when it comes to finances, yes, but also just energy as well too. And the biggest thing that I had to overcome with myself was my limiting beliefs that I think was repelling, potential sales and, potential clients away, just because I had such a negative connotation when it came to money and earning it, because I came from places of scarcity. And that's where I had to really work on my own self-worth and really work on like my confidence as a person and as a coach and as a business owner, so that way I can make sure I come to the table and come to calls and I could justify what I was going to ask for, and I was expecting it. And that's where I came from, more places of abundance. And we've had talks before. You gave me such really good reading material, and I have a bunch of them listed out right now that I recommend to so many different people that really helped me work on that mindset shift, because I think that was the big thing. Once I was able to flip that mindset, still always working through it, but once I was able to kind of knock that barrier down, that's when I really started to see success.
Yeah, it's always going to be a work in progress, right? We're always going to be on the journey. How long do you think it took you to change your beliefs from childhood to become the person you are now?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, I think, it comes in different phases of your life. Like I would say like,
Yeah.
even moving out to California, it took a change in belief. It could have just stayed the same old as everyone else kind of growing out where I was from. But I took a
Mhm.
little bit of a bet on myself and just knowing who I was. So, I mean, you could say there. And then I would say, like leaving the sure thing with like the Steelers and kind of betting on yourself in that way when you're trying to become your own business owner, and like, you're trying to start almost not from scratch, but you're also like, okay, maybe next month's not guaranteed. So it's like getting past that belief. Like, no, I know I'm going to do this. I know I'm going to get my
Yes.
money back and then some. Like
Yes.
that process, over the course of like the winter and the spring coming into this summer and fall, like that was a big process for me in terms of like rewriting those beliefs and really just taking time to get real with myself and what do I want? What do I have to do to get there? And also just instilling that confidence and inner self worth to do so.
Mm. Getting clear on what you want and how to get there. Most people don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Most people don't even think about creating a plan for themselves and then reverse engineering the process to actually make that plan come to fruition.
Mhm.
But you did. And it seems like every time a challenge or a bit of uncomfort came your way, you leaned into it and it worked out into your favor.
Yep.
That's cool, man.
Mhm.
That's super cool. That's super cool, dude. I'm really happy for you, dude, because I can see your growth personally because we've had talks. We've had a couple of talks, and my job as your coach is to hold space for you, but also to make sure that I see you as your vision. Whatever you want, I see you as that. You want to be the six-figure coach? I don't see you as anything less than a six-figure coach.
Mhm.
And when I hold you accountable to this status of a six-figure coach, then I'm ultimately making sure that you rise up to what you wanted,
Right.
right? And it's going to be up to you to make sure that you're doing the work in between to get to how I see you as and how you ultimately see yourself as.
Mhm.
That's cool. So, what was your highest month inside Fitballs?
This past month was my highest month. Like I got so close like the month before and I probably would have passed it, but then, someone wanted to commit to more monthly and I was like, all right, we'll go ahead and take a guaranteed monthly payment. And then like, I was like, oh, am I going to get there this next month? And yeah, I knocked it out of the park the next month. So I was like, okay, we'll take it. We're just keep going up.
Nice, nice. And so, okay. So when you got that highest month, was most of your payments, were they in full or were they on recurring basis?
Honestly, I would say probably most of them were on recurring at that point, just because I built up a lot of recurring. And then at the like, it only took a couple paid in fulls to actually get me over.
Let's go. Would you say it's an 80-20 split or would you say it's a 60-40, 70-30 of recurring versus paid in full?
Probably 60/40 when it comes to
Okay.
recurring versus paid in fulls.
Nice. When you first started your fitness business, were you only hoping for paid in fulls?
I think I was looking for the month to month just because like I was
Okay.
like
Month to month, huh?
because I was like, could I actually get someone to pay me like all that money in full? Like again, it was like that idea of like my worth and just being like, oh, can I
Yeah.
charge someone thousands of dollars for a training program versus like, oh, if it's a couple hundred, they'll take it, you know, versus
Yeah.
of course I want it, but I was just like, man,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can actually get them to do this, you know?
Got you. So the first time you made a sale for your fitness business and you first got your first paid in full at $1,500 or $2,400, whichever one it was,
Yeah.
how did you feel when you got your first paid in full compared to you going back and forth and hassling and with people who are complaining about a $50 program?
Right. It was freaking awesome. I was like, man, this thing freaking works. Let's go.
Let's go. Exactly.
Man, okay, 6 months taken care of. We got 2,400 in the bank. All right, let's go.
Hmm.
I'll whip this up for you. I was like, okay, no big deal. I was like, I entered in the card information. I was like, man, that's when I really felt like a boss. I was like, man, this is like
Yeah.
I am a business owner. I'm really doing it. It's not like, the kid like having a dream like of doing it. Like when I was like the dream that I had when I was like a younger kid. I'm actually doing this now. I am creating the life
Yes.
that I want to. And that's when you start making your dream a reality. And on that
Yes.
topic, like I think you gave me a quote from a book one time you talked about with our group. It's like, as soon as you're able to control yourself, that is when you're able to control reality. That's by Frederick Dobson. And that's something that I have
Yes.
resonated on and I've written down so many freaking times is like when I learned how to control myself and how all those things happened inside me. That's when I was able to control my reality and take those dreams and make them a
That's such a powerful quote. I just got chills just thinking about it,
reality.
dude. It's like, look at that. Literal chills, man.
Yeah.
As soon as you're able to control yourself, you're able to control reality. And that goes all across the board. That goes with your fitness and your goals of getting a six pack. You got to control yourself because you can't just fucking eat food all day,
No.
right? You can't just skip on your workouts. You can't just sit there and imagine that you're going to get a six pack. You have to control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're able to control your circumstances. And if they don't, it doesn't happen immediately, it will happen eventually because your thoughts are the seeds.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's when it's a big thing. If you can control the thoughts and what you're telling yourself every single day and really trying to turn those from like a negative or a downward spiral to a positive spiral or like a good place where they're seated, that's where you can really see that positive chain reaction happen. And that's where you can really get that good forward momentum.
Yes. So changing your thoughts from a negative spiral to a positive spiral. Give me some examples of how you were able to do that. Just in case somebody right now is like, man, but how do I do this? I want to think positive, but I keep going negative.
Yeah, I would say it's just like the big thing is just like stacking your wins, and that's something you always talked about, and I know that's part of yours. Like regimen is like writing down your daily wins. Like for me,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, I know that I can control that all my content's going to be done. I'm going to make sure it's edited. I'm going to make sure I'm going to run it past someone, so that way it's good on like another person. Luckily, I know someone that works social media, so I'll just run it past them, and they're like, oh yeah, I would say that's pretty good. So I make sure my content's done. All right, that's great. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing all the KPIs and making sure that I am making sure that I talk to as many people as I need to per day for the messages. I'm making sure that I'm working those messages into calls. So it's just, I'm doing the basics of the business and promoting those things. And for the clients that I do have, I am just showing up for them. I'm going to continue to
Yes.
show up. I'm going to make sure that I'm providing grade A work for them. I'm making sure that I'm holding space for them and anything that they might need. So that's like, okay, if I can manage my current clientele well, I know that I'm ready to take on more. If I'm not managing my current clientele well, I don't deserve to take on more. So that's something that I
Mm.
really worked on with myself.
Dude, you've done such an amazing job with your business. And I'm just over the moon excited for you and just proud of you as far as the person that you've become and how much you progressed in the business because not everybody did it,
Mm-hmm.
but you did.
I appreciate that, Coach. Really, I really do.
Seriously, bro. Seriously. Not everybody did it, but you did because you stuck with it and you followed the process and you held the faith to your vision.
That's a big thing. And I think that's something that I resonated with before jumping on this call is like, obviously being a man of faith, like I think the one thing that you taught me on one of our calls, and like it stuck with me forever. It's like, you have this faith in something, but it's like, where's your faith in yourself? And for that, that just hit me hard. And I was like, man, that's so freaking true. I was like, okay, like, all right, well, let me look in the mirror quick a second. Where's the faith in myself? Like, if I'm going to put my faith in these different things, but I'm not putting in myself and who I am as a person, what I stand for and what I do, like, that's where I really need to get real with myself. And that was the big thing. It's like, you have faith in what you're doing, even though you can't see or hear it, right? So it's like, you have to continue to stick with the vision. And, whether it be through mentorship, whether it be through, trial and error, the big thing is just like keep working through it and keep like developing those skills, sharpening your sword, and eventually it's going to come down, and eventually you're going to knock that tree down if you swing your axe enough. Like, it's going to happen.
Yes. Be consistent. Continue to sharpen your tools, and also continue to be around like-minded people who are on the same journey as you as well, to continue to feed and pour into you and let you know that you can do it.
Exactly.
Right? There are no can't do's inside of our group. It's all can do. Mm-hmm. Jonathan, if anybody was on the fence right now about joining FitBoss, what piece of advice would you give to them?
You're never going to regret investing in yourself. That's what we try to tell our clients that try to work with us. Now, if you are trying to go from being a coach to a business owner, let alone an online business owner where you are trying to manage people of all different walks of life, it is very, very important to make sure that you have the skills necessary. You can be a phenomenal coach, but you need to be able to market yourself. You need to be able to sell your program and your services. You need to be able to properly manage those. Those are 3 keys that we talk about. So
3 keys.
3 keys. So I'm like, okay, if you want to do those things to the best of your ability, it's best to invest in mentorship to be able to do those and do those effectively. Like, I thought I was a great coach, but I knew I needed to become a better marketer, a better salesman, and a better manager. And I can say that I reached out to other people. I've seen other people in the business, but I appreciate the interpersonal connection that I've had from this coaching group. You guys have helped me through so much, on the outside as well as on the inside with my business. And that's where I say FitBoss is a family. It's not just a mentorship group. And that's where I would put up this program against any program that's out there.
I would too.
Yeah, you should.
I would too. Jonathan, I appreciate you, man. And I'm sure everybody that's listening to this also appreciate you and your testimony. And, you're a man of faith. And I know that you have to have tests to be able to have a testimony. Right. And you went through many tests to be able to get to where we're at today. So once again, man, I'm so proud of you. So happy for you. We're just going to continue to live out our dreams and have fun and help as many people as we possibly can while making as much money as we possibly can at the same time.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
If you're a coach that needs help and you want our help with scaling your fitness business to 6 figures within 6 months or less, then I highly recommend you check out the free training down beneath this video and then schedule a call with us, with myself and our team. Look, don't wait any longer than when you already have been waiting. Time is going to pass regardless, so you might as well let time pass while you work on your business. Get the blueprint, get help, and start now, start today, and become the coach that you want to become. That's it for this video. If you got any value from today's episode, go ahead and click the like button and also subscribe to the channel. See you next week. Peace.